Welcome back to Bloodline Diem's journey of love and justice, from a battered laborer hauling pomelos for hire to a trillion-dollar CEO holding the fate of an empire. This Christmas Eve, as the city glows with lights, the curse of revenge is finally unleashed. Huyen is back, no longer the easy target with amnesia, but a king. Holding ironclad evidence beside him is Diem, the loyal wife who stood by him through his darkest days. The dragon bloodline growing in her womb is the very strength Huyen needs to wipe out the traitors. Huyen, your time is up. A tear-jerking Christmas party, a breathtaking revenge alliance, officially revealed will the villains pay for their sins on this holy night. Don't blink. Hit like to support Bloodline Diem's love. Click subscribe and turn on notifications now, so you don't miss the moment the traitor falls to her knees before the Porter CEO. The story. The late winter sun faded, giving way to the red and blue LED lights flickering across the boulevards. Inside the Tran mansion, the usual silence was replaced by a warm, bustling atmosphere. Today is Christmas Bloodline Diem's first Christmas since returning from the pomelo farm, marking exactly 6 months since they reclaimed their empire. But more importantly, it's their first holiday preparing to welcome a little angel into the world. Bloodline stood in the middle of the massive living room, power drill in hand, focused as if he were reviewing a trillion-dollar blueprint. Despite being a powerful CEO, again, his habit of doing everything himself from his days as a laborer hadn't changed. Instead of hiring expensive decorators, Huyen decided to personally set up a 14-foot Christmas tree in the main lobby. Diem, does this look straight to you? I want it to be rock solid, just like the pulleys I built back at the farm. Walking out from the kitchen, carrying a plate of homemade pomelo jam. Oh, come on. It's a Christmas tree, not a delivery truck. You don't need a structural load-bearing map for it. They both burst out laughing. Those memories of hard times were the bond that kept them together. Huyen carefully hung glass ornaments, but tucked between the luxury decorations were one-of-a-kind pieces, dried pomelo slices with red bows and tiny bamboo hats sent by his former co-workers. The front door swung open, and Uncle Thu walked in with a beaming smile, lugging a large wooden crate. Look at this, kids, a gift from the Pomelo Kingdom for Christmas. Inside were late-season pomelo blossoms that Mr. Num had carefully wrapped in damp cloth to keep fresh, along with a jar of raw forest honey from the old landlady. The pure scent of pomelo flowers immediately filled the air, overpowering the expensive cinnamon oils in the room. Moved to tears, Diem took the flowers and gently tucked them into the branches of the tree. The strange mix of white faux snow and the scent of countryside blossoms created a unique Christmas vibe, luxurious yet deeply soulful. You know, Huyen, I love this scent more than any perfume in the world. It reminds me of how strong we had to be to get here. A typical Christmas dinner usually means turkey and wine, but at Bloodline Diem's house, the menu had some special additions. Despite being heavily pregnant, Diem insisted on making red sticky rice and grilled river fish, the very dishes they shared under the old banyan tree. They invited Uncle Thu and a few close associates, the ones who stood on the front lines with Huyen during the counterattack, to topple Huyen, raising a glass of juice instead of wine. This Christmas, I'm not wishing for more wealth, because we've worked hard enough for that. I only wish for us to keep our laborer's spirit sincere, resilient, and never turning our backs on our brothers." Throughout dinner, they didn't talk about stock prices or competitors. They shared stories about how Tuan stood up to the arrogant manager Huyen, and the nights Diem spent sorting pomelos under the moonlight. Laughter echoed through the mansion, chasing away the winter chill. In the middle of the warmth, Tuan glanced toward the window, where the city lights cast hazy shadows. He knew that somewhere else in the city, Huyen was facing her final days. The darkest month in a detention center, awaiting sentencing for her crimes. Diem walked up and placed a warm hand on her husband's shoulder. "Are you thinking about her?" "I don't hate her, Diem. I just feel sorry for her. If she had known how to cherish the simple things we have right now, maybe things would have been different." Everyone makes a choice. She chose money over people's lives, while we chose each other in the middle of a mess. That's why we're sitting here today under this tree. The clock struck 11 p.m. Tuan led Diem out to the second-floor balcony overlooking the shimmering city lights. He wrapped a velvet shawl around her, the one the old lady had given them on their wedding day. It was a keepsake Diem treated like a sacred treasure. "Diem, I have a surprise for you." He tapped a button on his phone. Suddenly, on the massive LED screen of the corporate headquarters across the street, the very building Tuan had just reclaimed, a bright message flashed: "Merry Christmas to my loving wife and our little angel." Next to the words was a stylized image of a pure white pomelo blossom. Diem was overwhelmed. She leaned her head against Tuan's chest, feeling the steady heartbeat of the man who had once worked as a battered laborer just to protect her. 6 months ago, we didn't know where our next meal was coming from. 6 months later, I've won back the world for you and the baby. But you know what my biggest world is right here, the two of you. In the quiet of Christmas night, Tuan knelt down and pressed his ear against Diem's belly. "Can you hear me, kiddo? When you grow up, I'm taking you back to Mr. Num's farm. I'm going to teach you how to haul your first baskets of fruit, so you'll know that every cent earned comes from hard work. I want you to be as strong as your mom and as resilient as a pomelo blossom in a storm." Diem smiled, tears of joy streaming down her face. She knew there might be more storms ahead, but after everything they had been through in that poor countryside, they would never fall again. Church bells echoed in the distance through the winter night. The first Christmas of the Porter CEO and the Pomelo Heiress drew to a close, wrapped in the scent of blossoms and undying love. They hadn't just recovered their wealth. They had found the true meaning of life. Happiness isn't about where you stand. It's about who stands there with you in the storm. Inside the magnificent mansion, soft Christmas music blended with the warm scent of incense. But the highlight of the night wasn't the massive tree or the crystal lights. It was the special guests, the people who had been the guiding lights for Diem during those desperate months she spent searching for Tuan. The first car pulled into the driveway. Out stepped Tufan, a close friend and a brilliant rugged lawyer who had used every connection and detective skill he had to track down the faintest leads on Tuan's accident. Walking beside him was Uncle Thu, the loyal old butler, who had risked his life to secretly fund Diem, while Huyen was on the warpath. Tuan and Diem were already waiting in the grand foyer. Tuan, looking sharp and composed, in a deep navy sweater, stepped forward and gave Tufan a powerful hug the moment he saw him. Fan, if it wasn't for your persistence, I'd probably still be an amnesiac laborer at some pomelo farm right now, laughing heartily, patting Toan on the back. You should be thanking your wife. Back then, she was like a woman on a mission. She showed up at my door at 2:00 a.m. with eyes swollen from crying, but a voice as sharp as a blade. I know he's alive and you have to help me. Diem walked over and took Uncle Thu's hands, visibly moved. Uncle Thu, I'll never forget those bags of supplies and the cash you secretly left for me under the banyan tree back in the village. Without you, I wouldn't have had the strength to stay and care for Tuan. With misty eyes, seeing the two of you together like this, I can die happy now. Master Tuan is home and justice has been served. That's the greatest Christmas gift I could ask for. They gathered around a long banquet table. Instead of fancy European dishes, Diem had the chef prepare a traditional Mekong Delta fermented fish hot pot, a dish that honored the land that had sheltered Tuan. Amidst the rising steam, Tufan began sharing details about the search that Tuan had never heard before. Tuan, you have no idea. When you went missing, Huyen spread fake news that you'd run off with the company's money and a mistress. The whole city turned its back on you, and creditors swarmed Diem. There were times I saw her selling off every designer bag and dress she owned just to fund the search for you. Holding Diem's hand, his eyes filled with pain. Diem, why didn't you ever tell me about this? Smiling gently. Because at that time, my only goal was finding you. Everything else, money, reputation, it didn't matter as much as having you back. Uncle Thu chimed in, recalling how he had to go undercover as a fruit buyer just to get a glimpse of his master from a distance, making sure Tuan was safe before they launched the plan to take down Huyen. One time, I saw Master Tuan carrying a basket of pomelos so heavy his legs buckled. I was about to run to him, but Fan stopped me. He said, "Let him stand up on his own. That's the only way a king returns to his throne." As the party reached its peak, Tufan pulled out an iPad and set it on the table. "This is my special Christmas gift to both of you. I've been quietly documenting everything from the moments Diem started searching for you across the western provinces, her sleepless nights over maps, to hidden camera footage of Huyen gloating in your office. The video started playing. There was Diem looking frail and exhausted walking barefoot through muddy fields, asking locals about a man with a scar on his hand. The room went silent. Tuan looked at his wife, his heart aching with both pity and profound admiration, his voice breaking. "I don't just owe you my life, I owe you everything." After dinner, they moved to the hanging garden where artificial snow fell lightly, creating a fairy tale scene. Standing among his benefactors, Tuan raised a glass of red wine. In business, they call this a strategic alliance. But to me, this is family. Tufan, from this day on, you're not just a friend, you're my brother. And Uncle Thu, you will be the patriarch of this family. There will always be a place of honor for you in this home. Tuan signaled his assistant to bring out 2 small boxes. He presented Tufan with a black card and shares in a top-tier law firm that Tuan had recently acquired. To Uncle Thu, he gave the deed to a peaceful suburban villa where the old man could enjoy his retirement with his grandchildren. Please don't turn this down. This isn't just a repayment, because what you all did for us is priceless. This is simply about sharing the fruits of our labor. When the other guests had left, leaving only Tu Phan and Uncle Thu to stay the night at the mansion, Tuan and Diem headed back to their room. Diem sat at her vanity, gently removing the dried pomelo flower crown she always kept with her. Do you see it, Tuan? This Christmas is a miracle. The people who walked through the darkness with me are now standing in the light with us. It's because you planted the seeds of faith, Diem. You deserve this harvest. Tomorrow, we'll go to court with Fan to finally put an end to Huyen's reign. But tonight, let's just focus on us and this peace. Outside, the snow continued to fall, but inside their hearts, it was a warm spring day. The baby kicked gently in Diem's womb, as if sensing the pure happiness of its parents and their incredible circle of friends. This Christmas didn't just mark the rebirth of a corporation. It was a tribute to loyalty and love that conquered all odds. Tuan realized that a CEO title can be lost and regained, but friends like Fan and loyal souls like Uncle Thu were the greatest assets he gained from that fateful accident. The faint scent of pomelo flowers drifted through the room, mingling with the aroma of Christmas candles. A new chapter was beginning, one without dark schemes, filled only with deep bonds and a bright future for the little angel about to be born. The crystal chandeliers in the dining room were dimmed, replaced by dozens of candles scented with pine. On the table, steam rose from the Mekong hot pot, blending with the rustic flavors Diem had meticulously prepared. There was no high society formality here, only the warmth of people who had faced life and death together. Tuan stood up, personally pouring wine for Fan and Uncle Thu, then pouring himself a glass of red pomelo juice to toast with Diem. Tonight in this house, there is no CEO, no lawyer, and no butler. Just family. Fan Uncle Thu. I've waited a long time for this drink. Fan let out a satisfied sigh after finishing his drink. He looked at Diem and shook his head in admiration. Tuan, do you have any idea what Diem looked like when she first walked into my office? She was a socialite who had never lifted a finger for hard work, yet she stood there, threw a stack of messy investigation files on my desk, and said, "If you won't help me, I'll tear the entire Mekong Delta apart myself." Looking at her eyes hollow from lack of sleep, I knew I couldn't say no. Diem smiled, her eyes misting over. I had nothing left to lose Fan. I was just terrified that if I was even one day late, the rain or time would wash away any trace of Tuan. The meal continued with stories that were once painful, but were now cherished memories. Uncle Thu placed a piece of grilled fish on Diem's plate, reminiscing. Do you guys remember the time I went undercover as a fruit buyer at Mr. Num's farm? Uncle Thu reminisced. I was wearing a ragged t-shirt and pulled my straw hat low so Tan wouldn't recognize me. But when Tan walked past me carrying a heavy crate, he muttered, "Why is this fruit buyer wearing such expensive designer leather shoes?" I was so spooked, I ran straight behind the shed and tossed my shoes into the ditch to hide the evidence. The whole table burst into laughter. Tuan shook his head. "So that was you. Even with my memory gone, my CEO instincts were still there. I kept wondering why this fancy-looking buyer was running for his life barefoot. And what about me? My first time trying to cook over a wood fire at the old lady's house. Diem added. The smoke was everywhere. My face was covered in soot, and I thought the whole house was going to burn down. Huyen came charging in from the garden, but instead of saving me, he grabbed the sack of pomelos and dragged it outside because he was afraid the smoke would ruin their market value. Huyen gave her an apologetic smile, squeezing her hand. Back then, pomelos were the only thing on my mind. They were the only way I could keep us fed. The mood turned more serious as fans spoke about the chess match he and Uncle Thu played against Huyen's henchmen back in the city to protect Diem's journey. One night, Diem was being tailed by a suspicious car on the highway. I had to coordinate two of my guys' cars to run a diversion and force that car off the road so Diem could slip away onto a side path. When she called me, her voice was shaking, but she still asked, "Fan, I'm safe, but do you have the original evidence of Huyen forging the signatures?" Her composure was truly impressive. Me too. Uncle Thu added, "In all my years at the corporation, I've never been as scared as the night I broke into Huyen's office to get the original will. Hearing her heels clicking down the hallway, I thought I was a dead man. Luckily, Fan called her at that exact second to distract her, giving me just enough time to get out." Huyen listened in silence. He realized that while he was living a quiet life as a laborer recovering his memory, everyone at this table had been putting their lives and safety on the line for him. Diem brought out a platter of juicy green-skinned pomelos, the last of the season sent from Mr. Num's farm. Try some, everyone. These are gratitude pomelos. Back in the village, whenever I felt like giving up, one bite of this sweetness gave me the strength to keep going. Huyen took a slice and fed it to Diem before sharing the rest with the group. This sweetness is better than any delicacy in the world. It tastes like the hard work of our brothers at the farm, the morning dew of the Mekong Delta, and the faith we all shared. Fan Uncle Thu, starting tomorrow, Mr. Num's farm officially becomes a strategic project for the corporation. We're not just doing business. We're building an ethical agricultural community. Late into the night, as the candles burned low, Fan looked at Diem's baby bump with a fond smile. This kid is going to be a legend. They've already been through a war more intense than an action movie before even being born. "I'll teach the little one about loyalty," Uncle Thu said. "It's the most valuable thing I've learned from this family. And as for me," Diem whispered, "I just hope that even if our child grows up in luxury, they never forget the scent of pomelo blossoms or the kindness of hard-working people." Huyen stood up and raised his glass once more, his eyes shining with conviction. This Christmas, we aren't just celebrating the return of a CEO. We're celebrating the victory of truth and love. Thank you all for not giving up on us when things were at their darkest. The Tran household will always be your home. The church bells chimed in the distance, signaling midnight. Outside, artificial snow fell softly on the garden trees. In the dining room, the warmth of the hot pot remained, but the warmth of their bond would last forever. They stayed there together, talking about the future, about charity projects, and the mass wedding Huyen promised to throw for his fellow laborers back at the farm next spring. The gathering wound down as the clock struck 1:00 a.m. Fan and Uncle Thu said their good nights, and headed to their guest rooms. Tuan and Diem walked hand in hand through the mansion grounds, surrounded by shimmering Christmas lights. Does this feel like a dream to you? If it's a dream, I never want to wake up. But this is real, Diem. This is a reality we built with our own blood and tears. They stopped beneath a small pomelo tree that Tuan had recently planted in the garden. He gently kissed her forehead silently, promising to protect this peace at all costs. Tomorrow, the sun would rise, and a new journey, one of sharing and building, would officially begin. As the clock turned the page on Christmas Day, the mansion was still filled with the lingering scent of the hot pot-scented candles, and most importantly, the echoes of genuine laughter. Fan stood up and threw on his charcoal overcoat. He was a bit tipsy, but his eyes were bright with joy. He shook Tuan's hand firmly. "Okay, all right, I'm heading out. This was the best night I've had in years. Seeing you two like this actually makes me believe in miracles. Just stay the night, Fan. The guest room is all set." With a mischievous grin, "Nah, I'll leave the privacy to you two and the little guy in there. I need to get home and prep the files for our final showdown in court tomorrow morning. Go get some sleep. You've got nothing to worry about." Uncle Thu picked up his small bag and gave Diem a respectful yet fatherly bow. "Thank you for the party, Diem. That hot pot was incredible. It made this old man homesick. You two get some rest now. Stay healthy for the baby." Diem saw them to their cars, making sure to hand them gift baskets filled with pomelo jam and fine wine that Tuan had hand-picked. As the cars disappeared behind the grand iron gates, the mansion returned to its winter silence, but the chill had been completely driven away. Tuan wrapped his arms around Diem's waist from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. They stood there together, looking out at the garden, where LED lights twinkled against the snow-covered bushes. "Are you tired? You've done so much today." Turning around to lean against his chest, "I'm not tired at all. I'm just happy. You know, watching you drink and laugh with Fan and Uncle Thu. That's when I finally realized we're really home. Home. No more hiding. No more jumping at every strange footstep outside the door." Tuan led Diem along the open-air balcony, their footsteps rhythmic on the hardwood floor. He stopped in front of a small pomelo tree he had brought from the Mekong Delta to plant in the heart of their city garden. "I was worried this tree wouldn't survive the city chill, but look, it's starting to bud. It's just like me. No matter where I'm thrown, as long as I have you as my water source, I'll thrive." Diem gently touched her belly as the baby gave a light kick, almost in response to his father's words. "Tuan, after the trial tomorrow, once everything with Huyen and the corporation is settled, what's the first thing you want to do?" Tuan paused, gazing up at the starlit Christmas sky. "I'm not going to bury myself in trillion-dollar spreadsheets right away. The first thing I'll do is take you shopping not at some luxury mall, but back to the local market near Mr. Num's farm. I want to buy you the most beautiful maternity dress the local tailors can make. And after that, we're going to build a small school right next to the farm for the children of the laborers." Diem smiled, her eyes welling up. "I knew it. My CEO is different now. Your heart has room for that whole countryside. That's right. Because there, I learned that a man's value isn't measured by the suit he wears, but by the weight of what he's willing to carry for the people he loves. They returned to the bedroom, which was filled with the scent of orange and cinnamon oils. Huyen gently helped Diem remove her earrings, then knelt by the bed to massage her slightly swollen feet, a habit he had kept since their days at the farm. "You're a chairman now, you don't have to do this anymore." Looking up at her with a steady gaze. "Before I was a chairman, I was your husband. And forever, I'll be the porter carrying the love of my life." As the nightlight dimmed and moonlight streamed through the window, Huyen pulled Diem into his arms. Their breathing fell into a steady sync. Outside, the city was still buzzing with Christmas music and celebration. But in this room, their joy was simple, the presence of one another, the heartbeat of a new life and a future where their enemies were no more. Drowsy and drifting off, Diem whispered, "Huyen, remember to wear the white shirt I just ironed tomorrow. I want the enemy to see my husband at his best, at his strongest, when he reclaims justice. I promise. Sleep now, honey. Tomorrow will be the brightest day of our lives." Sleep came peacefully free of the nightmares of the horrific accident or the long nights of lonely tears. Huyen and Diem had truly crossed through the gates of death to find life overcoming betrayal, to find absolute loyalty. This Christmas, the greatest gift wasn't the trillion-dollar empire they were about to reclaim. It was rebirth. Huyen was reborn from an amnesiac into a leader with a soul. Diem was reborn from a pampered socialite into a woman of steel who dared to sacrifice everything for love. The church bells struck 3:00 a.m. A new day had begun. On Huyen's desk, the strategic plan for tomorrow lay beside a dried pomelo blossom. The union of city intelligence and the soul of the countryside was the weapon that would win it all.